Hello, everyone, and welcome to Twillow Talk. I'm Janice Coughlin from the Twillow Lifestyle Community, Twillow Lifestyle Academy, and my lovely co-host Jennifer Tchaikovsky. And we are joined today by someone all the way from the UK, Angela Daye. Welcome.
Oh,
We're thrilled to have you back.
thank you. Just feel a little
How
bit,
are you?
little.
She's feeling a little bit under the weather tonight, so we'll support her with our center love and light, guys. Um, And Angela, why don't you share what you do so that everybody gets to know you a little bit more?
Sure. So I love working with people who are just not quite where they want to be in life. So whether they're feeling a bit stuck, they're feeling a bit unfulfilled, and just not quite enjoying life, basically. And I use energetic kinesiology or natural bioenergetics, depending on which name you want to use, as well as coaching and a couple of other different tools and techniques, just to help people just settle and be who they want to be and get to the life that they want to be living. So my new tagline is your life, your way, your terms. So I'm playing around with that just now. And yeah, so I work online and in person if anyone is local in Scotland. But I can work pretty much anywhere that people are based.
Awesome, awesome. And you and I do another show together. Do you want to talk about
So,
that show?
sure. So I think we're about to hit episode 42 monthly episodes. And we do a therapist in conversation. So it's just a bit of a panel show type thing, or celebrity squares with the Zoom screens. And it's between 4 and 6 or 7 people get together on a monthly basis. We have a topic and we talk about the topic for about 45 minutes. And it comes out every month on the 5th of the month. And I'm going to try and remember. We talked about grief this month, so it's coming out on the 5th. And it was all about grief this month that we talked about. So, yeah, quite interesting conversation.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's different therapists from all over, all over the world. Really, we all get together and have a little chat. It's a lot of fun. So
Nice and relaxed to make people realise that therapists are people too, are not scary. We might be a little bit strange sometimes, but we're not scary and we're quite approachable. And it's just to show that we've all got opinions and we're here,
yeah,
we're available.
yeah, and we come at things in a slightly different way because we all do sort of specialty areas, I think.
Yeah,
So we tend to bring those little flavors into the conversation as well when we're doing that. So
yeah.
awesome. Well, we're excited to have you here. We're going to say hello to a few people. We've got Kaylee here. Hi, Kaylee. How are you doing? And we have Michelle from Astrological Tarot. Hey, Michelle. Thanks for joining us. And we have Betsy Palmer. Hello, hello, all the way from Hawaii. And who else have we got on here today? That's all that's showing up in there. I know we've got a couple more on, so please join us and say hello if you're with us today. And yes, so we did have a retreat this weekend. People are asking about the retreat, and it was a lot of fun. We did some fun classes. We did ceremony. We did conversation. Just all sorts of stuff. We had a full moon ceremony and releasing ceremony and all that. So it was a lot of fun. So we're gonna start planning the next one. Probably not till the spring, but we'll see. Jen,
Yeah.
do you want to talk about the forecast? Well, I'll do the forecast. You do the transits.
Sure. Definitely. So where are we at? Yeah. So we're coming to we're on the tail end of um, the gate 18. So I think we talked a little bit about it. I don't remember if it fell in the beginning of last week or not, but no, it wouldn't have. But anyway, it's judgment, um, integrity, perfection, right? So it's this kind of energy around judging and all of that. And it's interesting, right? Because like last month in general, the energy of the transits was this kind of reflecting on belonging, on relationships, on what needs to change, like all this kind of mental energy, right? Around where do I fit in and how does it work and what do I want to keep and what do I want to let go of, which is so much this kind of energy right now, right? The autumn energy
Absolutely.
about what do I want to release? What do I want to plant for the future, right? It's very much this current energy. And so we're seeing a shift now from that um, and that kind of moving from that energy that we're just kind of coming to a close in is this kind of looking at confronting our conditioning and kind of our own judgments, our self-judgments, our judgments of others, and kind of looking at this piece of how much of this is still serving me, right? And how much of this do I want to release and let go of? And so between today and coming into the next, between the third and the fourth, is this kind of switch into the 48th gate, which is the well. It's the gate of depth, right? And so this part of us that wants to go deeper into the details, right? That wants to be able to look at wisdom is the siddhi for this, and from the Gene Keys perspective, right? It's this idea of moving from inadequacy to resourcefulness to wisdom. And what does that really look like for us, right? So now we're moving from this kind of mental energy to this very splenic energy, this kind of survival energy. And what does that mean? And, Richard has this great quote about how wisdom lies between the words, right? Between the concepts. And he talks about how it's reached through the mind in the way that sunlight is reached through a prism, right? We can't attach it to anything or to anything specific, right? It's this kind of spontaneous emergence that comes alive. And so, we think, all right, I have to figure this out and I have to come to this understanding. And there is an inadequacy in that because our mind just can't do it. We can't grasp hold of it, right? And so every time we try to do that, we connect with our inadequacy. We connect with the fact that we just can't get there, right? But if we allow ourselves to take that step back and we go, you know what? I'm going to allow myself to not have to figure it out, but I'm going to be in the moment. I'm going to feel it, right? I'm going to allow myself to notice what's happening around me. This is where the gift of resourcefulness comes in, right? Because in this moment, I'm going to be able to see what's needed, right? And then I'm going to be able to respond to that. And that's where true wisdom lies, right? And so that's the gate that we're moving into. So really being able to feel into that. And so if you're tapping into those feelings of inadequacy, take that step back. Notice how you're getting into your head. See if you can take that breath, be in the moment, right? Take a pause and wait and see what is there that I have to respond to, right? What can I wait for? And what shows up for me?
I am on mute.
Like your mic is muted, but nothing's coming out.
It's a ventriloquist trick. Yeah, so it's the self-doubt thing is a big one, right? For a lot of people.
Yeah.
At this time. So for sure. And we had an M class solar storm this morning. So that really sort of puts everybody kind of on edge, and so that would definitely amplify those kinds of energies. So that's the interesting play between what happens in terms of the vibration of the earth and the transits, whether it's the human design, like you've just discussed, or the Vedic transits that you'll hear on Wednesday when Michelle and I are on at 7. She does the Vedic transits for the week. So, we're all in this together. There's like this huge shift, and it's a lot for everybody right now. So we just have to breathe through it and allow the changes that are coming, because there are changes coming for all, and that's part of what you were discussing there, Jen.
Yeah.
You know, looking at what's serving us and what's not serving us, and moving forward. And we're doing that on a personal level as well as a global level.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the energy. It's still this transitionary energy that's coming, you know. And I think that October is going to be quite transformational in many ways. So, but it's all happening for us, because it's taking us to a higher vibe, which is where we find more peace, more love, more kindness. We just need to be that through the transition. And that's hard with the human condition, you know, this human condition of emotion and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So
it almost feels as if it's that permission to not force it, permission just to allow things to happen and not be constantly go, 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 but to take that breath, take that step back and just say, okay, what's happening? And as you said, what am I going to respond to next? And I don't have to force it.
And when we don't force it, we can respond instead of react, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Big hello to Amanda for joining us. Thanks for coming. Oh, lovely. You're helping with chores. Perfect.
Aww.
Nice. So, as we usually do, we have our deck, Soul's Journey, James Van Praagh, and we have cards. Shall we pick a card, ladies? And see what the guides want us to speak about, discuss, ponder. We're like getting low, so we don't have a lot of options. What they are, I don't know.
We got. I think we probably have some heavy.
Oh no, this is
We
nice.
got some releasing to do as we come to the end of the year.
Well, that makes sense with the card. So we got freedom.
Nice.
Freedom. I possess the power and the free will to create my own happiness. And I love that mandala at the top. It's beautiful. And it matches our stuff. It matches our branding. Perfect.
It was like it was planned.
Freedom. Yes, it was not. I definitely did. But we were going to get the other one that came out just after was the Perseverance, which was also branded colors.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just meant to be a branded color tonight, because that's not the only color. We got lots of colors. Actually, there's a lot of yellow left if we look at colors.
Nice.
So, freedom.
So as I am from Scotland, no, I've not seen the film. I did go to university not far from where it was all filmed, but I've not seen the film.
We're talking Braveheart here, are we?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I don't tend to say it in that tone of voice, but that's fine. But then I'm not Australian, so yeah.
Yep. We do tend to be really pigeonholed, don't we? In our society norms and stuff, we tend to try and fit everybody in boxes, and that doesn't really allow people freedom. Quick hello to Liz before we continue. Hello, Kazuma Liz. Thank you for joining us. We are talking about freedom today. So what are your
Those
thoughts?
kind of quite ethereal type things is like, can you really actually nail it down and define it? Because it's different for everyone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So freedom to me would be the same as freedom to either of you, I'm guessing, because it's all such a personal journey as to where you want freedom to take you.
Yeah. Or is it the actual ability to be able to go wherever you want? Whatever path you want to take. I don't know. Jen, thoughts?
Yeah, well, I mean, even just thinking about it in light of kind of the transits and what we're looking at right now, this idea of inadequacy, right? There's this piece of us that puts so much pressure on us to be a certain way, right? To show up a certain way, to honor all of the conditioning and all of the shoulds and all of the everything that's put on us. So when I think about freedom, in light of, just where we want to be and where we want to go with all of this, and what does it mean to actually have resourcefulness and wisdom, like there is freedom in letting go of our victimhood of inadequacy, right? In this place of being able to say, it's okay to not have all the answers. And it is okay to sit in a place of uncertainty. And it's okay to not show up the way everybody wants me to.
But that uncertainty is so uncomfortable.
It is, but it also is freedom.
It is. It
right?
is.
Because in that moment, anything's possible.
Mhm.
Right? And that ultimately is freedom.
Yeah. Thank you.
To
Thank
take
you,
that
Scott.
breath as well. It's being able to take that breath, and again, as we were saying earlier on, to take that pause and to have that moment to look around and say, right, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.
And not being constantly go, 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 you're able to then sit back and say, this is what I do want, this is what I don't want, and this is how I'm going to get to being in that place where I've got freedom. And whether it's freedom from other people's opinions, freedom from that little voice in our head that's talking absolute garbage, or something else altogether.
Which we all have. To some degree, right?
Yeah.
Freedom to press the mute button on that little voice is always a good thing too.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And Kaylee was saying she didn't even think of physical, she thought mental. I guess, it could be either, really, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or spiritual, if you want to think about it that way. Freedom to have whatever beliefs you feel suit you as well.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you to Scott. That's lovely. Thank you. Liz is getting a kick out of the earphones today.
It's having my hair tied back, I think it's making it even more obvious. Could switch to black, but we'll go with it, right?
Exactly, yeah. So Kaylee says, yeah, from The Handmaid's Tale.
Another one I've not seen.
Me either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so much, I mean, there is oppression and all of that in the world, but there is so much oppression that we do to ourselves in our own mind.
Yeah. I mean, we could be oppressed just by our programming, right? It doesn't even have to be anything that is happening at the moment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oppressed by memories, oppressed by fears, oppressed by, fear of
is a big one.
Free of our memories. I mean, there's the full gamut of it, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what do you guys think? What's your what is something that you guys would like more freedom with in your lives?
Mm-hmm.
I'd like freedom from my cold.
Yes.
To be
Well,
able
we're
to
wishing you freedom from your cold. Hello, Gerald. Thank you for joining us.
Hey,
We're talking about freedom, Gerald.
mm-hmm.
And what type of freedom would you like more of in your life? I think freedom from fear would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you did. He just got freedom from his call. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle says, there's more than one kind of freedom, said Aunt Lydia. Freedom to and freedom from. In the days of anarchy, it was freedom to. Now you're being given freedom from. Beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what is that then? What is the difference? Freedom to do something or freedom from not doing anything or not doing something?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bit of a broad topic, don't you think?
It really is.
It
There's
can go in
so many
many
things and so many
directions.
directions we can go with it. And I think that's part of the, okay, this is a, there's a lot here, right?
Yeah, like where do we start to unpack that? That's a big term.
Yeah.
So, well, this is one here. So freedom from the 3D focus on violence and division.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We can work on all of that together, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was from A Handmaiden's Tale. We have a theme.
Mm-hmm.
Handmaiden's Tale apparently is a theme.
Okay, good.
I'm getting the headphones.
Yeah. You know, I actually want to touch on that, right? Like that idea of gaslight, like the best of them, right? Because
Yeah.
I think this is something that we run into a lot where we have a feeling or we have a thought, we have something that's happening within us. And then somebody tells us, oh, it's fine. Oh, get over it. Oh, don't worry about it. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Or we go, well, I shouldn't worry about this. Other people have it worse. Or it's we do this to ourselves. Other people do it to us. We do it to others without even thinking about it, right? And we deny or downplay or gaslight or whatever our own feelings or others do it to us, and we're not even always conscious of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think that there is a moment here where we have to recognize, like, we all have the freedom to feel our feels, right? We have a feeling, it's valid. Even if it's absolutely ridiculous, it's valid because it's triggered something within us that we have to look at. And that is valid, right? It's triggered a trauma memory. It's triggered an experience that we had. It's triggered a pattern in our thinking. It's triggered something that we need to look at, and that is valid, right? And so I think that, this idea of negating is something that we really have to be mindful of, because there is this idea of, we all have the freedom to have our inner experience, right? It's how we navigate that inner experience that's really, really important.
Mm-hmm. So that brings us to Gerald's comment, the self-imposed restraints that aren't real.
Yeah.
Right? That's navigating that inner story.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And allowing yourself to have that inner story and then to question the inner story.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times we either block it out and don't allow it to come through, or it comes through and it takes over, and then we get imprisoned again by whatever story has come to mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just go around that kind of hamster wheel day in, day out, thinking, well, it is what it is. That's when I think somebody said to me, it's one of the most dangerous phrases that is out there. It is what it is. It doesn't have to be the case. We do have that freedom to choose something different.
And oftentimes people don't
Challenge.
feel that because of their story, though, right? They've been through,
Absolutely.
And that's the trauma that they've been through, or the beliefs that they've been programmed with, that you don't have a choice, right? So this was an interesting one from Liz here. Philosopher that was in the German concentration camps said, when our spirits are centered in spirit, nothing outside of us can actually imprison us. She said his name is Bonhoeffer, a Lutheran pastor. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And Michelle says, yes, don't let your inner child die by trusting a gaslighter's reality of your world. It's a form of mild control. Be careful of the personal freedom it takes away.
Mm-hmm.
And then watch out for your inner voice, who also likes to gaslight you too.
Exactly. Safety is an illusion, but wouldn't it be nice to feel safe on Earth? So is safety an external thing, or is safety an internal feeling?
It's getting deep now.
It is. It is. And I missed one up here, I think. Where are we? I knew I liked to bully myself, but just realized I also gaslight myself. Another layer. Ooh, here's a quote. And what's that from, Gerald? Oh, here it is. Janis Joplin, me and Bobby McGee. Okay. Interesting.
So much. Goodness, I don't even know which one to talk about first.
And they keep coming, so we got more to do here. So
you guys are just giving us so much.
Woohoo! Gerald's channeling his inner bigger brother. Like the false narratives we learned in Gerald and Val's Divine Compliment class. I didn't realize I was gaslighting myself until we did that exercise. So helpful. That's awesome.
That's wonderful. Not that you're gaslighting yourself, but that you've
No,
realized
but that you learned it. That you learned it in the class. That's great. I felt so free when I was finally able to let go of my inner struggles with my brother and son. It felt glorious. Awesome.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. And yeah, we had a conversation at our retreat about that.
It's interesting how it's that inner voice stops us from having freedom, whether it's freedom of choice, whether it's freedom to breathe, to be, just to enjoy life. It can be really quite toxic, and it's not one you can easily walk away from.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of hard to walk away from yourself. Not usually advisable either.
But normally when you're in a toxic situation, it's that case of, well, remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah.
But it's a completely different situation when that toxic situation is
inside,
completely in your own head.
That's when we need counselors and coaches, right?
Enthusiastic supporters.
Yes, that too. Yeah, to reframe things for us. Give us a different option of how to think about it.
Yeah. It's hard though, right? Because sometimes, I've worked with people before too that are so defined by their trauma and their inner narrative that the idea of changing it is so scary. That there's so much work to do, that the idea of freedom from that trauma is scarier than staying in it. Right?
Staying with the status quo, it's safe here. It might not be healthy, but I understand the people around me or the concepts around me, and this feels okay because I'm used to it now.
Yeah. Well, there's that phrase, right? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know how much truth there is in that, really. I mean, there is that comfort, I suppose, in what you know, and you do sort of understand, like you said, Angela, how to navigate it a little more.
Yeah.
But
then the longer you stay in your comfort zone, the smaller your comfort zone gets.
Yeah. Yeah. And you don't have as much freedom because you get very stuck. Yeah.
Back on that hamster wheel.
Yeah.
We have a lot of talk about Janis Joplin.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've got this here about the pop festival. Okay.
Yeah. There was a comment, an interesting one with the quote. I think it was Betsy who said about somebody saying about safety is an illusion, and I think that's such an interesting thing because we talk about safety, external safety versus internal safety, right? An external locus of control versus internal locus of control, right? And this idea that things can, and then that the quote with the concentration camp, right? And how, the world can be doing all kinds of stuff around us and we can be in all kinds of different environments. And yet we can be okay within ourselves, right? Or we can be in an environment that is completely safe around us and not feel safe at all, right? And it
It's very
really,
much how we navigate it, right?
mhm.
A lot of people think they're stuck. Both
Yeah.
they don't realize it. Yeah. But
Mhm.
And that safety could be another reason that they're stuck, because it's not really safe, they just think it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes we need a truck to pull us out of the mud.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit knows it's going to be okay, but just like reading an enthralling book, we're on tender hooks awaiting an outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And I think ultimately when we talk about what is freedom, right, we come back to, and we've talked about this before, but, being able to be in a moment without expectation, being able to allow things to unfold, being able to be in flow, whatever that looks like, being able to feel our feels without judgment, right? Like all of the things that are simple, not easy.
Yeah.
Right? Those are the things that ultimately bring freedom, right? Because we can't control so much in our experience, but these are the things that we have the ability to have control over.
Mm-hmm. And the comment from Gerald about people don't realize that they're stuck, it brings to mind that frog, right? The boiling the frog. You put it in when the water's cold, and then you heat it up. Water's usually wet.
Dry water, hey.
I know.
I
Technology
mean,
these days. There's dry shampoo. So anyway, I digress. You put a frog in cold water and you turn on the heat, and they stay because they're in cold water at first, and they don't realize the heat's turning up. And that's kind of what happens in toxic situations, right? The heat is turning up in this, like the toxicity is turning up, but we don't realize it because when we got in, it was fine. And then you're just used to that
and
temperature.
it's such a gradual thing.
Yeah. So definitely that can be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
We can create an environment that gives people the ability to be safe and be safe, but they have to align with the knowing and feeling of being safe. It's complex. It is.
Yeah.
And you said the dreaded word. Control.
Yeah.
And when it comes to being safe, it can be different on a different day.
Yeah.
So one day safety can look a completely different way to how it looks the next day.
Mm-hmm.
And a little bit like that temperature going up. So it felt safe, and suddenly you're in that kind of steam pool, and then suddenly it's a boiling bath. It just depends on the day and your tolerance levels to stuff as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and it's so much about what our mind does, right? Because, and I've said about this before, like I don't do scary movies. I can't. But it's such a great example, right? You're you're home, everything's good, you got your popcorn, you got your drink, you got your whatever, you put on the show, everything's great. You know you're safe, you know all is good. You watch a movie, there's a scare, something jumps out. Whew, I'm just gonna turn that light on. Oh, I gotta go to the
front door's
bathroom.
locked.
Oh, I gotta turn that light on. You know, while I'm up, I'm just gonna go turn the hallway light on and go, make sure the door's locked. And, I'm just gonna do a little perimeter check around the house. And actually, let's just turn all the lights on. And nothing has changed. Right? But something in here did.
Yeah,
Right?
and that's usually what the case is, right?
Yeah.
Is that it changes internally.
Yeah.
I can say I know I'm safe, but my body and mind are not convinced, no matter how badly I want it to be. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can happen.
That's that disconnect, isn't it, between the little voice in your head and your rational thoughts?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. You're right, Angela. Safety is relative in Seattle. It completely depends on the day and the area. And Betsy can relate to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Well, and that's the other piece too, right? There are places and times where we're just not actually in a safe environment. Right?
There are.
Be mindful of that. For sure. Right?
Absolutely.
But helping our nervous system to be able to differentiate when we're safe and when we're not is also really important.
Exactly. And that's where, if we know we're safe, but the adrenals are in overdrive, that's where people can do the energy medicine stuff.
Yes.
Right? That you do. And I'm sure, Angela, you probably do some of this too with the kinesiology, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Lots of fun acupressure points to calm everything back down again.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that way as well, that your body doesn't really know the difference between anxiety and excitement. It's the filter that we put on it. So
Right.
the body's still doing the same things.
Yeah.
It's just the response and the filter that we've decided that's what it means. It's so hard sometimes to say, right, no, I'm not going to have it as being, I'm scared, I'm nervous and whatever. I'm going to be excited that this is something new. It's so hard to flip that switch.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just trying to get your website up here. Inner Pathways. That's co.uk. Right?
Yeah, my new website went live last week.
There's her new website.
So if there's anything obviously wrong with it, please let me know.
Absolutely.
I did have a couple of nice testers to check it for me, so hopefully it all works.
I'm sure it's good. Gerald likes kinesiology.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Yeah, we've got some stuff happening indeed in some of the places in the US. Yeah, having some issues, some unrest. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm quite fortunate where I am that we don't seem to have that. Touch wood.
Gerald would like to know if you have a hidden page for a feline assistant. I do not, but Jen does.
So cats scare me, so probably not. My friends like to troll me by sending me cat memes, and it's just not good.
No, not if they scare you.
No.
I'm not a fan. And because I don't like them, they seem to like me, so it's not
Of course.
good.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, Margie says, no shame. She's afraid of chickens. So, hey, Margie. Thanks for joining us. Hi, Sharon. Thanks for coming. Do chickens and cats get along? That's the other question.
I don't know. I don't know if I would be too. I could probably get closer to a cat than I could to a chicken. But then I've never really been around chickens, so I don't know. Other than Chicken Run, I like the chickens at Chicken Run. Does that count?
Well, they're cute. Cute and not real.
That's fine. Yeah.
Oh, Margie says
like
they're
that.
not
I'm
bad
okay with
together.
Garfield.
Oh, cats don't mess with chickens, so that's good. Good to know. Totally dependent on the chicken. There we go. Cats don't mess with chickens. Yeah. Awesome.
That took a turn. Sorry.
That's what this show's all about. We go all around. It's all good. It's all good. We have the freedom to do
It's like
that
going
on
down
here.
the rabbit hole, but that's bringing in rabbits now as well. So we won't.
So there's a question: do chickens, rabbits, and cats get along?
They have the freedom to if they wanted.
Exactly. The chicken will win that fight.
They definitely would with my cat.
I don't know. She's a warrior.
Yeah, she's a scaredy cat though. Sometimes.
Yeah.
She's good with other stuff, but like in the 3D, I don't know.
Margie said she has a friend with all of them, but the bunnies are caged, so it's tough call.
Yeah.
Is that because they're scared of the bunnies, or the bunnies are? No, I'm not going to go there.
I think the bunnies don't come so easily when you call them.
They probably don't listen.
They like the freedom.
Because they truly embrace freedom and do whatever the heck they want.
They do, indeed. Yes, and when you mix the sexes, you end up with an awful lot more of them because they have freedom. Sometimes we do have to take a turn to regain our sense of safety. Seriously, we look away and look back to see our safety from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that the same with everything in life, though? It's always good to look at everything from a different perspective. And what's worked today might not work tomorrow. And what was good for us yesterday may be really bad for us next week.
Yeah. And that's why that regular check-in, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do I need today?
Yeah. Well, I love that idea that a different perspective is important for understanding freedom, because sometimes we hit a wall or something comes up and it blocks our freedom, right? And we go, well, I want it, right? And then something later comes up and we go, oh, I'm so glad that didn't happen.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that didn't work out. Right? And it was such a blessing that we didn't know in the moment.
Yeah.
Right? Where we went through something that we didn't want to go through and we go, I don't want this to happen. And then after the fact, we go, okay, as hard as that was, it needed to happen.
Yeah. Definitely.
Kind of calm after the storm, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's happening with all the transitions and change.
Yeah.
It's coming up right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Oh my.
However we look for the freedom, it's about looking for it with kindness to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
That must be uncomfortable. That would not make me feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry to hear that, Betsy. Michelle says, Gerald is good at keeping us on topic. Yes, he is. Yes.
I like Gerald's response too.
Here's the response. Sometimes, only sometimes. I'm often the one that goes on.
Tangents are fun too.
They are indeed.
Mm-hmm.
And this sums a lot of that up. Oh, the lessons we are here to learn.
Yeah.
That is why we're here. And if we were
So,
free to do anything, would we still learn the lessons? Probably, right? Because it depends on the outcome more than the initial activity.
and would we actually feel fulfilled? If everything was easy, is it as satisfying? Obviously, we want some things to be nice and easy, but a little bit of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the grist, it adds to our lives, right?
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because you asked that question, and it kind of made my mind go, huh? Because I've never thought about freedom as being easy. Like that's not a correlation that I had in my mind of being free to just do whatever as a freedom. It was more of a peace kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a very interesting thing that my mind just did when you asked that question, because ultimately, moving towards that kind of anarchy place of like, if everybody was just free to do anything, that would be a very different world. And I don't know that that would be a world I'd want to be in.
No, that would not give you security, safety and security, right?
No. Right. And so, when we talk about freedom, I do think that we need to have some of those, walls that we bump
Restrictions.
up against and things
Yeah.
that are, part of our experience too.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. Betsy says, I would say that the main thing the word freedom means for me personally is being able to learn, try, do, or be anything I want.
Mm-hmm.
She does think that she is lucky to be able to say that because not everyone on the earth can say that.
Yeah.
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 Gerald agrees.
Yeah.
But it's something nice to strive towards, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think following your passion, I was watching some stuff with Bashar, the channeler, and they were saying that the more you follow your passion, that's where you get into flow more easily. And it doesn't have to be like a huge passion, but what makes me passionate in this moment? What's the more passionate choice in this moment? Because that can lead you to that flow that we all look for, which
Mm-hmm.
can feel like freedom,
Mm.
the flow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's something we were talking about even over the weekend with the retreat with the human design and finding our flow based on our design, right? And what that looks like. And, and I really appreciate, Betsy, what you were saying, because not everybody has the opportunity to do that in the world, right? And so, being able to be at a place where within ourselves we can figure out what lights us up and being able to bring in that in any way that we're able to,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's so important.
Absolutely. Michelle says it takes bravery to be free, especially when it comes to speaking truth to power when achieving our goals. Absolutely. As an artist, complete freedom is scary. Personally, I need boundaries to challenge me, to learn and find out what limitations work for me and which ones don't work.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that a little bit as well, actually, about withdrawing, right? If you have like this blank page, it can be scary because you're like, where do I start? It's just empty, that there's too many possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
And then you put a dot on the page and then start with that. And that can sometimes give you an inspiration. Or you start with a common symbol and draw off of that when you start doing it. But that's a boundary, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's putting a boundary into it.
But then once you know what the boundaries are, you can start to gently test them and push them and decide if they're the right place to be, or if you want them to maybe be a meter or two further out.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's right. No problems at the retreat. Thank you for joining us. Jen felt you come in. And no, our candles were good. It's all good.
I'm intrigued now.
Yeah, no, nothing got, fire.
We were talking last week about him astral traveling to join us at the retreat because he was teaching at the same time. So he couldn't be at the retreat, of course. Yes, he joined the picnic astral. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Oh, boundaries can help people feel safe. Yes, they can, especially children. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I think when we feel a lack of freedom, it's sometimes when our boundaries differ from what somebody else's boundaries might be. And the safety where boundaries is concerned, if somebody's always walking over your boundaries, then you don't feel safe because they're disregarding what you need to feel safe
Mm-hmm.
in that moment.
Yeah. Well, and even, we talk about the freedom to set boundaries. And right, and have them honored. Like, it's such an important piece of our journey to be able to, honor what we need and to be able to say, no, this is a boundary, and I don't want this crossed.
So when you're in a relationship that's not respectful of that, right, you can feel unsafe, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's also having that freedom to know that you can set your boundaries and then that you can enforce them if they're right for you to enforce.
Yeah.
And you can change them as well. You don't have to say, this is my boundary from now till the day I die. You can then say, actually, no, I'm going to flex that a little bit, or I'm going to strengthen that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's having that ability to know where you want them to be, and then to stand up for yourself and say, no, this is it.
Yeah.
Please respect me.
Freedom is also the ability to change your mind and where you want those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting the words we associate with the word freedom. Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
And boundaries are a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
When trauma comes in, boundaries can go to the extreme. So it's finding the difference between healthy boundaries and imposed, either self or others. Yeah, for sure. I think that's a big part of healing when you've been through trauma.
Mm-hmm.
We Aquarian moons are pretty good at emotional detachment during trauma. Afterwards, alone, it hits hard. Yeah. So how do you all maintain your boundaries? That is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There we are. Betsy associates morals and ethics when thinking of boundaries of freedom. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's another thing, right? We have the freedom to look at our own ethics or what's right for us versus what's right, what other people think are right.
Mm-hmm.
Being in your own personal integrity instead of just looking at the shoulds.
Yeah.
Because we could should ourselves to death.
Oh, it's so true. It's interesting, right? Because you talk about like morals and values, and I will often do a values worksheet with clients. And one of the things that I do when I do that is we go through and we mark off the feelings around the values, right? So we first go through and go, okay, what feels good? what doesn't feel so good? What's neutral, right? And then I go, okay, what's really important to you? And then we go back one more time and go, okay, now how many of these things are shoulds, right? How many of these are things that you think should be important, but don't actually matter to you?
Yeah.
Right? And weed those out, because, you know, a lot of times we will say that something should be important or should be a value, but it's actually not a boundary that we want to set. And we already have so many beliefs and values and morals that in order to honor one, we may have to not honor another, right? And so we don't need to add to that plate any more than we need to, right? So as an example, right, we might, you know, honor what might be important to me is my independence and my autonomy, but what might also be important to me is my family and my community connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so how do I balance that? Right? And so in order to honor one, I may need to take time away from the other, and vice versa. Right? So it's about finding balance. But we get so caught up sometimes in, I have to honor this, and then we push that away, right? And then it's like, oh, no, 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 I have to honor this. And then we push that away, right? Now we start adding should values on top of that, and it's just a mess in here.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, and so when we talk about freedom, again, it's about letting go of things that aren't even ours, right? So that we can find balance in the things that are ours.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's even more important when you're your traditional people pleaser, where you then have everybody else's boundaries because, well, it works for them, or they've told me this is good and this is what is wonderful, and I should do this.
Yeah.
And it's not actually looking into yourself. You're too busy picking everybody else's stuff.
Yeah. The plate of the empath, right?
And I guess there's nothing wrong with looking at what everyone else has got and cherry picking, as long as you're the one that's making the choice as to which parts you're choosing to put as your boundaries, and then to make sure that they're flexible enough to continue to support you regardless of what the situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Michelle says maintaining our moral core and ethics is key, as Betsy, especially these days. Love your point. And Betsy's talking about integrity. Integrity is one of the most powerful journeys I can imagine. I remember embarking on that path and have loved every step.
Mm-hmm.
And then Gerald adds, integrity has been added to my list of words, as has freedom. And personal integrity is different, right, from collective.
Yeah.
Yes. Duly noted, Betsy. Many of us were in that boat. Yeah. Well, I can't believe how fast the hour's gone. So it was wonderful having you here. It was great to have you.
Thank you for inviting me.
And what have you got coming up for in your world? Is there anything that you'd like to share, that you'd like people to know about?
Not a huge amount at the moment. I've got a couple of things that I'm working on in the background, but there's nothing quite ready to go out. The website was the big thing recently, so that, as I said, live last week. So, but yeah, awesome. So come and check out Therapist in Conversation.
Yep.
And see if there's anything that's there, and if anyone's got any topics for future episodes of that as well, I'm well open to suggestions. As we're getting to that point now, we're thinking, have we redone that one? Do we need to do something different? So yeah, topics for our conversations are always welcome for suggestions. So yeah, check it out.
Absolutely. Well, it was an honor having you. Thank you. Jen, is there anything you want to mention that you've got coming up?
Well, not this week, but next week is when I'm going to be doing the Mind Body Connection Summit. So you guys can mark your calendars for next Thursday, Friday is that summit if you guys are interested in connecting and listening to that. That's going to be a whole slew of speakers talking about the mind-body connection and ways to work with that. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome. So
Mhm.
she'll post stuff on her Facebook page
Yeah,
about that. So stay
yeah.
tuned there.
Stay
Or
tuned.
also on your website, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get there and get things posted. It's coming. It's a coming.
All good. All good. We all do what we can do, right? That's what we do. And for me, we've got Michelle and I are on Wednesday at 7 Eastern for reading. So join us then. Ramsey and I are doing open mic on Friday. And stay tuned for classes coming up at twillowlifestyle.ca. There's lots of stuff happening. So thank you all for joining us. And we will see you very soon. All right. Have a great one. Don't forget to subscribe and like for all of us. Okay. Thanks. Have a good night.